I'm with you.
All right. All right.
Mm.
Hi, welcome to Transformation Talks. I'm your host, Heather Adams, and I am so glad that you are here for some transfer-centric conversation. Be sure to come back every week for more transfer talk and like TN Talks wherever you listen. You can also subscribe to always stay up to date on all the transfer tea. All right, enjoy the show.
As if we haven't been talking for the past hour.
Yeah, like if we're not relaxed now, then we're never going to get this out.
Ever. Try again tomorrow.
Okay, I have chapstick on. I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to lift up your drink for me to start because I can't
Oh,
react. I have motivation, Bernard.
cheers to tea on
Cheers,
transfer.
cheers. Wait, hold on. What in the world are you drinking? What is that?
I know it's a mystery drink. It's actually a very, very simple combination of whiskey and blueberry lemonade and a
Wait,
squeeze of lime.
I have never, so I love whiskey. I always put it with like ginger ale or just drink, just neat or on ice. I don't think I've ever had it with a sweet, like a juice. That's interesting. How did you
I
come to that
know.
combination?
So like one of my favorite spots in downtown Orlando, if you're ever in Orlando, anyone listening, I'll take you there. It's called Osfair. The bartender there makes these like specialty drinks. And he made something that was like heavily blueberry inspired, but it had whiskey. And so it just was the most refreshing cocktail that I never thought I needed. And I happen to have whiskey on hand and I happen to have blueberry lemonade. So I just wanted to try it out and see if I could recreate this magnificent masterpiece of a cocktail. And I think I've succeeded because now I want another one. And this one
What?
just got started.
Now I feel really lazy because I just like poured a watermelon truly into a glass.
But it's giving very like summertime,
Thanks.
no
Yeah.
zero sugar. Like I love that for you. I can't say the same about my drink. Lots of sugar in this.
Oh, Bernard, you're the best. All right. So we're actually here to spill some tea, not just tea on cocktails, but tea on transfer. And as you know, our tea on transfer episodes, we cover a little bit of what happened this past month in the news, what is trending right now in transfer, and then we talk a little bit about topics. And today we're going to talk about the upcoming transfer think tank that we have, as well as thinking forward a little bit about transfer orientation, because I think it's that season that people are starting to get geared up for it. So we're going to talk a few minutes about orientation and wrap up with our transfer champion think tank. How does that sound, Bernard?
That sounds like a plan. I am so excited. I am ready for the tea. I've been waiting all month for the tea. So like, let's get into it.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'm going to start with something called Transfer Boost. So I
Oh,
don't know
tell
if
me more.
I don't know if anybody's read this. Boost stands for Bachelor's Opportunity Options that are straightforward and transparent. Right? That sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, I love that.
HCM strategist and IHAP, which if you don't know what IHAP it is, it's the Institution for Higher Education Policy. They partnered on this initiative to create equitable and affordable transfer pathways that meet the needs of students today, right, in today's economy. And so through this Transfer Boost program, schools really aimed to ensure community college students could complete their bachelor's degree in a timely manner, which we all know is important, especially our enrollment management folks out there and our academic advisors, by clearly communicating the costs and the time to degree rules and guidelines, and supporting them through a mapped transfer pathway, guaranteeing that all the credits that they're taking would apply to completion. So they learned a lot of really interesting lessons. Some to this audience are probably not going to be a huge surprise, but the report is really, really great. It's thorough. And also it has a tool, a financial tool. Yeah, it's really cool, where you can plug in projections of your budget for transfer, of what it would cost to increase your transfer community, your return on investment, and a couple of other measurements. So it is something really worth checking out.
And it sounds like this could be a really, really cool tool for folks who are looking to advocate for a more streamlined strategy on their campuses to support transfer students. We always talk about, well, what is it going to cost us? What's that return? Those are always the big questions that we don't always have access to the tools to answer. And now there's tools to answer these questions. Wow, this is phenomenal.
100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's exactly that. It's this tool that can really help you make the case. You can really talk to your leadership about evaluating the expenditures, looking at return on investment. What is this going to mean for our students? How can we, what resources do we need, and how can we make this affordable for transfers? So it's a really great tool for that potential ROI. So if you are trying to make the case at your institution, you should definitely check this out. It's part of the Transfer Boost was part of this larger catalyzing transfer initiative that I've talked a little bit about on Transfer Nation. It's through ECMC Foundation. There are about 6 or 7 really great transfer programs, and this Transfer Boost was one of them. So just real quick, some of the lessons that that institutions and state leaders learned from the work on Transfer Boost was that good transfer policies are data informed, student centered, and equity driven. Ensuring equitable transfer student outcomes requires consistency and intentionality. Boom. I think that's something I see your head shaking. Yeah, that's something that we just really know is true. It's in the data, but it's also, if you're a boots on the ground person, you know this to be true. So one of the other lessons was serving transfer students well is an essential enrollment strategy, which I think is true. I just would caveat that transfer is not just an enrollment strategy, right? It can be so much more. The return on investment, the return on mission, the diversity of students that you get on your campus, the richness of life experience that transfer students bring, transfer student success. It can be a success strategy. Transfers do really, really well once they transfer. And so I think just thinking of it as only an enrollment strategy can be a little troublesome. But I do agree that serving transfer students well is clearly an essential enrollment strategy. Would you agree?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think for sure that the enrollment strategy is there when we're looking at transfer students, but that consistency and intentionality to make sure that we're not just getting their foots in the door, but we're actually providing support so that those students convert to degree earners from our institutions. We don't just want to enroll a ton of transfer students, right? That's one thing, but I think sometimes some enrollment strategies are absent of the real like success work that we got to do to also make sure we're pushing them through. But I think, to some of what the article alludes to, that consistency, the intentionality. So if we're intentional about getting them enrolled, how are we going to get them to graduation? And some of that involves a lot of pre-work and a lot of partnership and collaboration before they even arrive to our institutions.
Very much so. Very much so. Yep. So another lesson that they learned was about making transfer pathways affordable and really improving financial stability for the institution, but also for the student. So most of the audience probably knows that one of the most challenging things for transfer students is money, is how much the price tag of transfer and of college, and what's that going to look like, especially after post transfer, after your community college experience. And so this study really looked at those financial challenges and really started to understand them more thoroughly. And then they really tried to fund affordability efforts with sustainable funds. So philanthropic, state-funded grants, new revenue, things that would last and be consistent and sustain. Because a lot of times we'll get a donation from a donor and we'll be like, oh, we're going to do a transfer scholarship. But are you going to get that donation every year? Where does that money, what are your consistent affordability measures, your consistent financial stability members for stability strategies for transfer students. And so that was another big finding of this report. Schools should also jointly communicate about transfer pathways and emphasize benefits. That makes sense. It goes to your point, Bernard, about partnership. Really, what is the value proposition for a student to go to both of your institutions? Right? Both colleges should be jointly communicating about why their two institutions are an incredible match, an incredible pathway for that student. And then colleges, what did you have a point to make about that one?
I do. And I feel like how phenomenal would it be if a student knew with confidence on day one at their first school how long it'll take them to earn that degree? That's the ultimate goal, I feel, when we talk about academic alignment and, aligning our curriculum and aligning these pathways and making them accessible and understandable by students is really, they should have a full picture. Yes. Right? Like they should be able to see. And then how do we make sure we're honoring that? And there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that we're honoring that. Gosh, this article is good.
I know, it's really great. It's a really good research report. It's got a lot of great information in it. I also think to kind of add to what you're talking about is this shared responsibility for transfer. We hear that word handoff, but if the colleges are connecting and coordinating and collaborating about cost, about the pathway, about the entire transfer journey, then it's shared responsibility for transfer. And it's not just this handoff of, okay, now they're your students, here you go.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Or they're my students, so like, don't touch them yet.
Right, exactly. And they're the students, folks. They're just the students.
Period. The student.
Okay, last but not least, strong state and institutional partnerships are critical to stronger transfer pathways. Well, I think we've just talked about that argument, right? That you really need these strong state and institutional commitments, prioritization of transfer, whether that be collecting data, whether that be really communicating strongly about the student value proposition. And no, in Florida, you have incredibly strong state partnerships that are really vital to the higher education throughout the state. Isn't that right?
Yeah, the state partnerships here are just so remarkable. I'm impressed every day. I'm so grateful that I was a product of those pathways and going through the community college and then graduating from the university. And I have the pleasure of seeing that every single day in my work, students, navigating that system. And so for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that students understand that when they're at a state school, a 2-year school in Florida, they know that their credit's going to transfer the same way at any state university in the state of Florida. That is a true gift to the state. Doesn't mean we lack work, because we have a lot of work that we got to do to make sure that students still understand, right? But it's so phenomenal.
Continuous improvement, yeah.
Continuously, always, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's the Transfer Boost. Check it out if you haven't already. The financial tool is really cool. It's basically just an Excel spreadsheet where you plug in numbers and you're able to make the case on transfer. As you can just see by the takeaways, there's a really lot of rich information in there that might be really useful if you are trying to make transfer more affordable for your students. Now, talking about funding, this is an interesting article that I just read in the Texas Tribune. So Texas is going to start funding, or potentially start funding, community colleges based on outcomes.
Ooh.
I know. It's totally the tea, right? So currently the schools they're largely funded based on numbers of hours that students spend in the classroom. But this recent House bill, the Senate passed the House bill and it's sitting on the governor's desk right now. It's waiting to be signed, I guess. So it's pretty much, poised to go into effect. But the bill would look at community colleges based on how many of their students graduate with a degree, a certificate, or transfer to a 4-year university. And their funding would be based on those things. How cool is that?
That is phenomenal. I am in favor. Can I sign it? I'm not the governor. I can't sign it myself. But
we can go to Texas and we'll just encourage him. We'll bring a pen.
Yeah. We'll bring a pen, several pens in case one is out of ink. Like we're
Exactly.
prepared. No, I just love this so much because, we were just talking about the partnerships in Florida, and the state universities in Florida, we operate on a performance-based funding system, and we are measured at how quickly our full and part-time community college transfer students, we don't call them community colleges in our state, but that's just a general reference, how quickly with an AA degree they're graduating, full and part-time students, and we're measured, and our funding is dependent on those numbers. And we don't have the same exact metrics for our state colleges, and so sometimes it makes for tougher conversations around, well, how are we both accountable in this partnership for student outcomes? And
Mhm.
yes, getting them to the door is important, but a lot of what they do in those first 2 years or first 4 years, right, at that previous school is so critical for what's going to happen once they transfer over. And we can send our advisors, we can send our coaches, we can send our staff to those schools to help support this work, but it has to be a joint collaborative effort. There has to be accountability on both parts to make sure that students are graduating with not just the degree, but a degree that's going to get them access to the major of their choice, that they're on an academic path early, and how are we holding our state colleges accountable to that? It sounds like Texas is trying to figure out a way to do that through
I just
legislature.
exactly. I love that the state is prioritizing transfer. I
Right.
have dreams of national transfer initiatives and legislation and directive, but I think that if you've got states as big as Texas thinking in this way, you know, I know it puts a lot of pressure. I'm sure the other side of this, just as devil's advocate, could be that it puts pressure on the schools. I'm sure they're feeling that, like, okay, now we have to enroll and we have to make sure students graduate, and our funding is based on this. What if it's a bad year? What if it's COVID and enrollment drops and graduation numbers drop? What I love about it, I can't be a devil's advocate for very long on this one, because what it does is it puts the onus where the onus needs to be, which is on our systems and institutions that aren't created for students, not on the students.
Right.
And that's what I really like. If like it is your job to graduate students with certificates and transfer to another institution and college completion. So I don't know. That's my take. What about you?
Sure. I agree. It is the job of a state college or community college to do so. It's a job of the university, and if that's our job, then I'm okay with this being measured by it, right? I'm okay with funding being tied to that. And it for what I found so I used to work at a state college for 5 years prior to working at the university. And what I found was an immediate difference when I started working at the university was that the fact that we had these statewide metrics on our student success that directly drives sometimes and new initiatives, creative thinking. It drives innovation. Now we shouldn't need those things to drive it, but that's just the world we live in. Okay, we need funds to operate our institutions, and so we have to figure out creatively, how do we make sure that we are held accountable and we're being responsible with the resources we do have, with the people we have, to ensure that we are staying true to our promise of students, of getting them to a degree and getting them to be active and prosperous in their professions. And so I think the state colleges and the community colleges are just as important. And then you know what? Next thing you know, there's going to be legislation at the K through 12 level to do the same thing, right? Because that's a
Oh my
challenge.
gosh, yeah, that's a
I
lot
would
bigger
say
conversation, but
Right.
yes,
I would say
yes.
my one caveat, I think, that I would
Tell me.
hope is considered with this community college and the state college
Mm-hmm.
accountability is that they don't make it so time bound. Because one of
Mm-hmm.
the challenges we see even at the state university is that it's time bound in a way that's not informative, right? It's a bit arbitrary when we're seeing that students have their own journey. They should be supported on their journey, and we want to make sure that we're not forcing students into an academic path or rigor, a course load rigor that they're not equipped or prepared to because they have lives outside of our classrooms and outside of our institutions. And so that's my only hope, is
I'm
that we allow
so
that
glad.
flexibility. Yeah.
Yes. I'm so glad that you brought up that point, because while I understand that 2 plus 2 is a perfect world where like a student goes to college for 2 years and then 2 years, that is really, I mean, maybe it's the norm in terms of numbers of transfers that succeed, but in terms of the actual student experience, that's not the norm.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Life gets in the way. You're a student, but you're an employee first, a parent first, a commuter first, whatever it is that's going on in your mind, a caretaker. There's all of these things that are going to potentially get in the way. And research does say that if students are full-time students, they tend to be, more likely to transfer and complete with a BA. I kind of want to dig into that research a little bit, because I also see this, I really see an advantage to what you're talking about, which is, why does it have to be on a timeline? I mean, people want to get on with it. Yes, of course. But that's why certificates are great. And that's why AAs are great. You can, get some skills under your belt. Learn what it is that you're good at. But I worry that with this time-bound aspects, like you mentioned, that you're putting a lot of pressure on students. And I don't love that. So I always have a little bit of an issue with the 2 versus 4 year. In fact, I try not to call them 2-year institutions and 4-year institutions. What do you all have conversations over at UCF about that kind of thing?
Yeah, we do. And I mean, we're almost forced to, because our statewide metrics measure the length of time it takes a transfer student to graduate. Not just that they graduate, but how long it takes them to graduate. That's how we're measured.
Okay.
And being that we are meeting with students one-on-one to coach them, right there, we meet with the student that it is in their best interest to be part-time. And so I don't want to give away too much of some of the new initiatives that are coming, but we are looking at ways of how do we support students who want to maintain part-time. And I think you'll hear some cool things in the next few months about some of the ways that we hope to do that. But we want to support the journey of these students getting the ultimate goal of their degree. And if that means they need to be part-time. One thing I will share that we noticed, and we don't know why this happens and why this has been a trend, but we saw that there were students that historically have been part-time with their previous school. And then suddenly they start at the state university and they're taking a full-time course load and they're struggling.
Yeah.
And we don't know what was that switch, like what happened that made you, is it our messaging? Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I think, okay, this is a little anecdotal, but not really. I've met with enough transfer students who've had this similar story that I think it's part of the problem. No one's talking about the fact that you go from community college where it's super flexible, you can take night classes, online classes, all that thing, and all of a sudden you're transferring to really courses are 9 to 5, or they're in a very set period of time. Professors aren't going to be working on weekends and the evenings necessarily at a 4-year institution, and all of a sudden your life has to completely change. Someone said this. I don't know who it was, but I love the phrasing where transfers are always, every term, they're renegotiating their lives in terms of time. Because think about it. Some days you have to be at school at 8 a.m. Some days you have to be at school at 2. Traffic's different. Daycare's different. School's different. Your work hours are different. You're constantly renegotiating time as a transfer student. And so all of a sudden, when you're coming into this 4-year culture, which is designed for the student that rolls out of bed and rolls into class. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And so all of a sudden there's this culture shock of just time management. How am I going to do that? How, all of a sudden I think I can do a full load of class, but when you're in that environment, it's a brand new thing. And you may have all the skills in the world, but you got to learn the new rhythm, and you got to bring on new skills to thrive in that rhythm.
Absolutely. Wow, you really the idea of students renegotiating time at every step of the journey was something that I hadn't really synthesized in that way. But wow, that was very powerful to hear. It really was.
Thank you. I mean, it was definitely my personal experience, and I've interviewed a lot of parenting students and other women students who are over 25, and that was certainly a theme in those conversations. So yeah.
Yeah, in some cases I'm at with, students in those situations I'm at with, well, do it. There's not a lot of flexibility. And that I do see often, especially because our team is at every single orientation when those students learn that for the first time that, oh, wait, this program, this major this track that I've been on for this long, there's not an online option now that I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Or
it's
it's not going to
not.
be available at Tuesday when you need it, like there's only one
Yeah,
teacher that teaches it. So there you go. Yeah.
yeah,
So you mentioned orientation. I want to shift us into our transfer orientation conversation because it's
yeah.
about that time. It's a time that I miss so much because I'm not at an institution right now, and so I miss those great days where the whole day is dedicated to transfer students. Everybody walking around on campus getting a tour is a transfer student. And I used to get to be one of the people who greets the transfer students for the first time in the morning. And that was really one of my favorite things to do. I used to take a big group selfie, a terrible selfie, as you know, I'm really bad at taking them. But it was fun and I miss it. So talk to me about transfer orientation. Are you preparing for it? How are you
Oh,
engaging new admits this summer?
well, we are several sessions under our belt already. Well, we have our annual enrollment of transfer students is just so massive. So we start as early as April. And I'm not gonna lie, it's still one of my favorite parts of the journey because it's that one day that like their life changes forever, like that's the day they become a university student, some for the first time. And some of them have been just holding out on all of their students, which I don't recommend, but they do anyways. They hold out on all their student experiences until they get to that university, and then they're like, okay, what all can I do? And I know that it's different at every institution, but I'm very grateful that UCF requires it for all new transfer students. So in order to register for your first set of classes, you have to attend orientation, and that's really exciting. Our first year experience office that administers orientation, they have been phenomenal in wanting to really lean on our expertise of working with transfer students to see how they can develop a program that meets their needs, provides opportunities for students to get connected, and we've done some phenomenal um, programming so far this year that I'm really excited to eventually get to formally share out, and their team has been such amazing collaborators. But we have coaches on site all day, and we have these really I sent you a picture of the shirts. Oh my gosh, maybe we can attach it to this post.
Oh yeah,
But
let's attach it because they're great
oh,
shirts. Or we can have it as our opening
yeah, our
picture.
theme is transfer squad, and then we have our coach tag on the back, so they know that like when they see someone that's a coach, we're there for you not just today, but we're there for you the entire time that you're a UCF student. And so it's just phenomenal. It's great. Campus community is so involved and so engaged in it, and what I think is interesting, and I tried to find some research on what folks are publishing on transfer orientation. There's not a lot. There's not a
Oh,
lot.
hmm.
And a lot of schools, it's not even required, for transfer students. And, I don't like, I can't fathom what it will be like to
Hmm.
move to a whole new school, a whole new system, and not have to learn be oriented to that system because it is a different place. But another thing that I think is fun is the orientations, and but also like the students who are starting the summer offering social engagement for them, opportunities for them to connect with other transfer students, and for us, what's really cool is that it's summer, and so there's a lot of opportunities for on-campus housing that transfer students typically don't have access to. And so at our last game night, there was a number of students in the room. There were a number of students in the room at our last game night that were living in campus on campus just for the summer. So like,
Oh
well,
my
how do
God.
we capitalize on that? Like, how do we
Yes.
engage them? How do we get like all they have to do is roll out of bed and get to my office? Like, let me find ways and opportunities for them to connect with us. Because it's just such a unique time.
It really is, and that is something that I'm I'm kind of have definitely gotten on a soapbox about that when I was at UCLA. Is that, and I'm gonna add another article to our instant updates on transfer. I didn't put this one in because it's not really transfer specific, but it was focused on engaging students in the summer. So just what you're saying. And whether you're on the semester system or the quarter system, it's a long chunk of time that you have between when you register or like, say, yes, I intend to come to this institution, and when you actually go to orientation or start classes. Sometimes it's months. That is such a wasted opportunity to engage students, especially with transfers. Come
Yeah.
on.
Selfless plug, if you still have access to it, my director and I did a session for NISTS on
Oh,
pre-orientation coaching because we launched an initiative specifically around getting students connected to a coach while they're admitted and just like kind of in that lull time of, okay, well, I'm admitted, like, what do I do now? What do I need to know about? And so our coaches are actually doing outreach to every single student that has a orientation reservation as a transfer student, and that has been admitted. And so if you want to learn more about that, check it out on the NISTS website.
All
And we will link
right.
it here as well, the
Yeah,
recording.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think you might have had to attend either the online or the in-person to be able to see it, but we'll put the link regardless. So hopefully
Okay.
you can have access to that.
I'm gonna check their YouTube.
Yeah, check their YouTube because it might also just be on the NISTS YouTube. So I love this. Thank you for sharing about your orientation. And just a little plug out there. It sounds like there's not a ton of research on transfer orientation. So if you're getting your doctorate and you are a transfer oriented centric person, maybe transfer orientation is an arena, because the question I get the most when it comes to transfer orientation is, how do you make it required? How can you require it? Now, some people have students sign up and enroll in classes at orientation, so it's like it's not really required, but it's sort of like, if you don't come, you're not going to get enrolled. So there's this kind of fear of it. But how do you all make it required?
Well, they can't register for classes unless they attend orientation.
There you go. Okay.
So there's that. So they know, like, you're not getting your classes until you attend orientation. And you know what I would say for institutions that are looking that route, be very, very collaborative with your orientation office to ensure that the dates don't become barriers to academic progress. And so that's something that's going to be, especially if you're at a large institution, in classes, upper division courses fill up really quickly. Ensure that if you're going to make that a mandate in order to register for courses, whether it's summer or fall semester, that you are giving your transfer students equal opportunity as rising juniors to get access to those upper division courses. So early dates. So that's why we've had a few already. We have April, starting in April, our students are getting access to do orientation so that they have the same opportunity as our rising juniors that started an institution to get into those courses for fall and for spring. So that's the one caveat I will say on that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so shifting to before we wrap up, there is an important date coming up, June 8th. What is happening, Bernard, on June 8th? What's happening?
Oh, wow. Oh, the highly anticipated Transfer Champions think tank.
Woo! Yeah.
And it is exactly what you all think it is. It is an opportunity for this very massive and robust community. I mean, if you attend this, if you want to learn from your colleagues and your peers, if you want to build community, I mean, our goal is that folks are making connections at this, and that these are connections that you sustain beyond that think tank. So let's brew some ideas, let's make some connections, and stay connected with the people you meet there. So yes, I'm excited to see everyone there. What are you excited about, Heather?
Well, I just, this is this brain trust, like you just said, is this community, this collective. And we've talked, every year we do polls and we kind of ask people for their feedback. Well, we really wanted to provide a consistent opportunity every quarter for everyone to come to the table, share interests, share what they wish they saw on Transfer Nation, what they like, what they don't like, what they want to be a part of. But also what you just said, that opportunity to collaborate. We are a brain trust. We have thousands of transfer experts from all different points of view, all different phases in their career. Think of the things we could create. So I just really want to have more opportunity for that. Obviously, we'll provide insight into Transfer Nation, what's coming up, what we're doing, and some opportunities. There'll be a couple of big reveals. One of them I know that you're very excited about. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, the board of directors.
Ooh, that sounds
So
fancy. What's a board of
exciting.
directors,
Yeah,
Bernard?
so those are the leadership members within the organization, and really just provides you an opportunity to get some really cool experience, but also to be part of moving the community forward. It's a small but mighty team right now. And I think there's going to be opportunities, and Heather just is so passionate about this too. There's opportunities to continue to grow and enhance and spread the reach and grow the community. But we need you. We need folks to get involved and get engaged. And this board of directors is a great opportunity to do that.
So if you are interested in transfer if you're interested in opportunity, if you're interested in
Boom.
community, if you're interested in
Yes.
collaboration, if you're
Yes.
interested in surprises and big reveals and brain trust,
Yes.
come on, June 8th. At
June
what
8th.
time are we going to be there?
12
to 1:30 ET.
Yeah.
Eastern time. So we're going to do a brunch lunch thing, right? So it's learn at brunch / if you're on the Pacific Coast, it's breakfast. If you're on the East Coast, it's lunch. And if you're Central Mountain Time, it's kind of like in between brunch. It's perfect. Bring your snacks.
Know what?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a team, share it with your team members, right? Like everyone should be part of this, right? Like this is the opportunity to tell the students, I'm going to be right back with you. I just have to make sure that I refuel myself and I get, some juices from my other colleagues in it. And I just don't feel like anyone will regret taking the time out to be part of it.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
And another cool part is that this isn't a presentation. This isn't a webinar. This is an interactive and engaging opportunity for you to really have your voice be heard and get feedback and insights from other transfer professionals.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad that we decided to have it at the brunch hour versus in the evening, because this is a work thing. If you work in transfer, no, I'm gonna rescind that. If you work in education, in higher education, in K-12, if you work in education, this is a PD opportunity. This is a networking opportunity. This is a learning opportunity. This is a sharing and a research opportunity. And this is, you're going to have a lot of folks in the room who know about transfer. You can ask questions. You can get to know people. So this is something you can do during work hours, in my opinion. I am not your supervisor, so maybe check on that. But
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I hope that you're able to communicate. Everyone's able to communicate that with their teams. That this is professional development. This is networking on behalf of enhancing the work that we do. I know that every time I get with, one of my favorite things about getting with other transfer professionals from other schools is to learn from them. We learn from each other, and this doesn't require you to pay for travel. So.
Exactly. It's just a free opportunity.
Log in and check it out.
I love it. Oh, so Bernard, are you going to make yourself another blueberry lemonade whiskey for the evening, or what are your plans?
I have to, because I'm really hungry, which means that I have to cook something. And so just one more, just to get me through the whole process of doing the cooking thing. Cause
I'm with you. I'm going to go do it too. Well, I'm glad that we had an opportunity to chat this week and get updated on the transfer trends. And I will see you next time.
Yes, you will see me next time. And everyone, out there, stay motivated, stay charged up. We're going to help you refuel on June 8th. So attend for that. But connect with the community. Keep your posts coming. It's amazing to see all the engagement on the socials and LinkedIn and the Facebook groups. Let's keep the community thriving.
All right, y'all. In Transfer Pride, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
You are listening to Transfer Nation Talks. Transfer Nation is a community of educators and advocates working to improve the transfer and post-traditional student experience and celebrate transfer and community college as the pathway of success that it is. You can join us here every week or so for conversations on, everything transfer. From advocate conversations focused on grappling with today's most important transfer-centric topics, to the nuts and bolts on transfer programming, services, and building more inclusion for transfers on our campuses, to transfer stories and the inside scoop from transfers and transfer alum. You can continue the conversation with the community anytime on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and in person at the many events and transfer think tanks hosted by the Transfer Nation community. So be sure to join us on your favorite platform as we learn from and with one another how to bust out of the status quo, disrupt systemic inequities, and reimagine, reform, renew, and regenerate educational opportunities that work for students, that center the student experience of today rather than what works best for outdated and ineffective processes and procedure. Until our next conversation, from the whole Transfer Nation team in Transfer Community and Transfer Pride. See you next time.